The guidelines. I didn't find out the way people usually do. No lipstick on a collar. No suspicious late-night messages lighting up a phone in the dark. No dramatic confession. I found out on a Saturday morning, standing on the sidelines of a youth soccer field, holding a paper cup of burnt coffee and pretending to understand the rules of a game I had watched for years but never really paid attention to. My son, Ethan, was 10. He wore jersey number 7, though he spent most of the game chasing the ball instead of controlling it. He had my stubbornness, my wife's smile, and a kind of innocence I didn't realize was already starting to crack. "Come on, Ethan, spread out," the coach shouted. That was him, Jason Miller. Tall, athletic in that effortless way that made other men look slightly unfinished by comparison. Early 30s maybe, he had that easy confidence people trusted without thinking about why. My wife Lauren stood a few feet away from me, hands tucked into her jacket pockets. She leaned forward slightly every time Jason called out instructions, like his voice had gravity. I noticed it, but not the way I should have. At first, it was just admiration. That's what I told myself. "Jason's really good with the kids," Lauren said beside me, her voice light. "Yeah," I replied, not taking my eyes off the field. "He seems dedicated." She smiled. I saw it from the corner of my eye. "He stays late sometimes. Helps Ethan with drills." I nodded. That's good. And it was good. At least, that's what I believed back then. We had been married for 12 years. Lauren and I met in our mid-20s. We built a life the way most people do, slowly, carefully, piece by piece. A house in the suburbs, stable jobs, a child, shared routines. Nothing dramatic, nothing chaotic, just steady. I used to think steady meant safe. The game ended in a draw, though the kids celebrated like they had won the World Cup. Ethan ran toward us, sweaty and grinning. "Did you see that pass I made?" "You mean when you kicked it straight to the other team?" I teased. He rolled his eyes. That was strategy. Lauren laughed, crouching slightly to hug him. "You did great, baby." Then Jason walked over. "Good hustle today, Ethan," he said, giving him a light pat on the shoulder. "Thanks, coach." Jason looked up at us. "You must be proud," he said. "Always," Lauren replied. Their eyes met, just for a second, too quick to call anything, too long to ignore. I didn't think much of it. Not then, because when you trust someone, your mind doesn't jump to betrayal. It fills in the gaps with harmless explanations. "Hey," Jason said, shifting his weight slightly. "I'm organizing some extra practice sessions. Nothing official, just helping the kids improve. Ethan's got potential." Lauren lit up. "That sounds great." I nodded. "Yeah, whatever helps him improve." Jason smiled. "Cool. I'll text you the details." He looked at Lauren when he said it. Not me. That should have been the first moment something felt off. But it wasn't, because I was used to people talking to Lauren. She had that kind of presence. Warm, engaging, easy to connect with. It was one of the reasons I fell in love with her. The drive home was normal. Too normal. Ethan talked nonstop about the game. Lauren asked questions, laughed at the right moments. I drove, half listening, half thinking about work. Nothing felt broken. Nothing felt like it was about to be. That evening, Lauren was on her phone more than usual. Not obsessively. Just often enough to notice. I saw Jason's name once when her screen lit up. "Coach Jason." "What's he saying?" I asked casually. "Just about practice schedules," she replied quickly. I nodded. Okay. I didn't ask to see the messages. I didn't feel the need to. Because trust isn't something you question without a reason. And at that point, I didn't think I had one. The extra practices started the following week. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Lauren volunteered to take Ethan most of the time. "You're always busy with work," she said. "I don't mind." I didn't argue. It made sense. At first, she would come home and tell me everything. "Ethan's getting better. Jason says he has good instincts. They worked on passing drills today." Then gradually, the updates became shorter, less detailed. Eventually, they stopped. "Practice was good?" I'd ask. "Yeah," she'd say. That was it. It didn't feel like a red flag. It felt like routine. About a month in, I went to pick Ethan up myself. Lauren had a headache. At least, that's what she said. The field was mostly empty when I arrived. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the grass. I spotted Ethan near the goalpost, packing up his bag, and Jason, talking to Lauren. Except, Lauren wasn't supposed to be there. I slowed my steps. Not intentionally. It just happened. They were standing closer than I expected, not touching, but close enough that it felt personal. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I saw Lauren laugh, not the polite laugh she used with acquaintances, the real one, the one she used to have with me. Jason said something. She lightly touched his arm. Just for a second, that's when something shifted inside me. Not a full realization. Not yet. Just a small, quiet discomfort, like a crack forming beneath the surface. Hey! Ethan called, spotting me. They both turned. Lauren's expression changed instantly, not guilt, just adjustment. You came? She said. Yeah, I replied. You said you had a headache? I felt better, she said quickly, so I came anyway. Jason stepped forward, smiling. Hey, man. Good to see you. Yeah, I said, shaking his hand. Thanks for helping Ethan. No problem. Kid's got potential. I nodded. But my attention kept drifting back to Lauren. She seemed slightly off. Not distant, not nervous, just aware. The drive home felt different, quieter. You didn't have to come, she said at one point. I was already out, I replied. That wasn't true. Practice ran late, she added. Yeah, I saw. Silence. Jason stayed to give Ethan extra tips, she said. I nodded. Seems like he stays a lot. She glanced at me. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said quickly. Just noticing. She looked out the window, and for the first time in 12 years, I felt like there was something she wasn't telling me. That night, I lay in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling. She fell asleep quickly, or at least pretended to. I kept replaying the scene at the field. The laugh. The touch. The way they stood close without realizing how it looked. It still didn't feel like proof, but it didn't feel like nothing either, and somewhere between doubt and denial. A thought entered my mind, quiet, unwelcome. What if something is happening and I'm the only one who doesn't see it? I turned my head slightly, looking at her in the dim light. Her face was calm, peaceful, familiar, the woman I had trusted for over a decade. I wanted to believe that was still enough, but for the first time, I wasn't completely sure, and that uncertainty was the beginning of everything falling apart, the space between truth and denial. Once doubt enters your mind, it doesn't leave. It doesn't explode all at once like in the movies. It seeps in quietly, settles into the corners, and waits. Then it starts connecting things you never thought to connect before. A look, a pause, a change in tone, and suddenly your whole life feels slightly off. I told myself I was overthinking, that what I saw at the field was nothing, that Lauren laughing with another man wasn't a crime, that a touch on the arm didn't mean betrayal. I repeated those thoughts like a script, but something underneath them didn't agree. The next few days, I started noticing things I hadn't noticed before. Lauren guarded her phone more, not dramatically, just subtly. She'd flip it face down when she set it on the table, take it with her when she went to the bathroom, turn the screen away when a message came in. Small things, reasonable things, but together they didn't feel small anymore. Who's texting? I asked one evening as her phone buzzed during dinner. She barely glanced at it. Just Ethan's team group. Coach Jason? She nodded. Yeah, he sends updates. I forced a casual tone. Seems like he texts a lot. He's just involved, she replied. Involved. The word stuck with me longer than it should have. That night, I couldn't sleep again. It had become a pattern. Lying next to her, listening to her breathe, wondering if there were parts of her life I no longer had access to. I hated myself for thinking that way. Because suspicion changes you, it makes you someone you don't recognize, someone I never wanted to be. A week later, things escalated, not in a dramatic way, but in the kind of quiet shift that's impossible to ignore once it happens. Lauren started dressing differently for practice. Nothing inappropriate, nothing obvious, but intentional. Her hair was done, not just tied back. A little makeup just enough to notice. Clothes that felt less like running errands and more like being seen. You look nice, I said one Tuesday evening as she grabbed her keys. She paused, slightly surprised. Oh, thanks. Big practice today? I asked. She gave a small smile. Just regular. But it didn't feel regular. I can take Ethan today, I offered. She shook her head quickly. No, it's okay. You've had a long day. I don't mind. It's fine, really, she insisted, already heading toward the door. That was the first time it felt like she didn't want me there. After she left, I sat in the quiet house, staring at the TV without actually watching anything. My mind kept circling back to the same question. What am I missing? I picked up my phone, scrolled to her contact, then stopped. Because what was I going to say? Hey, are you cheating on me with our son's soccer coach? The thought sounded ridiculous and terrifying. Instead, I did something I wasn't proud of. Something I had always believed I'd never do. I went to the field. I told myself it was just to watch Ethan, to be present, to support him. But deep down, I knew why I was really going. I parked a little further away than usual, close enough to see, far enough not to be noticed immediately. Practice was already in full swing. Kids running drills, parents cattered along the sidelines, and there they were. Lauren, Jason. She stood closer to him than the other parents, not unusually close, just comfortably close. They talked while the kids practiced. Not constantly, but often enough. I watched, longer than I should have. Then I saw it, not a touch this time, not a glance, a moment. Jason said something. Lauren laughed. Then she looked at him, not quickly, not casually, but with something that lingered, something that didn't belong to just conversation. And he looked back the same way. It was subtle, so subtle that if you weren't looking for it, you'd miss it completely. But I was looking, and once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. I got out of the car, walked toward the field like nothing was wrong, like I hadn't just been sitting there, watching my life shift in slow motion. "Hey!" Ethan called when he saw me. "Hey, buddy." Lauren turned, and this time, there was something there. Not guilt, not exactly, but awareness. "You didn't tell me you were coming," she said. "I was nearby," I replied. That lie came easier than I expected. Jason walked over. "Good to see you again," he said. "Yeah," I replied. We shook hands. His grip was firm, confident. I studied his face for a second longer than necessary, trying to find something, anything, but all I saw was a man who didn't look like he thought he was doing anything wrong. That scared me more than anything. "How's work?" he asked. "Busy," I said. "Yeah, I hear that," he replied. "Lauren says you've been putting in long hours." I froze, just for a second. "Lauren says she talks about you a lot," he added casually. I forced a smile. "Hope it's all good things." He laughed. "Of course." I looked at Lauren. She looked away. That was the moment something inside me shifted from doubt to something closer to fear. Because now it wasn't just about what I was seeing. It was about what was being said when I wasn't there. The rest of practice passed in a blur. I stood beside Lauren, neither of us saying much, but the silence between us felt different now. Tense. Careful. On the drive home, I finally said it, not everything. Just enough. "You talk about me to him." She kept her eyes on the road, just normal things. "What kind of normal things?" "I don't know," she said. "Life, work, you, I asked. "What about me?" She sighed. "You're making this sound weird." "Is it weird?" I asked. She glanced at me, irritation creeping in. "No, it's not." "Then why does it feel like it is?" I said quietly. Silence filled the car. "Nothing is going on," she said after a moment. "I didn't ask." She offered. "That's what made it worse." "I didn't say anything was," I replied. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel. "But you're thinking it." I didn't answer, because she was right, and for the first time, we both knew it. That night, the distance between us felt undeniable, not physical. She was right there beside me, but something had shifted. Trust wasn't broken yet, but it was no longer untouched, and once that happens, everything changes. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling again, and this time thought came back. Stronger, clearer. Impossible to ignore. If nothing is going on, why does it feel like I'm already losing her? Beside me, Lauren turned slightly in her sleep, or pretended to, and for the first time in 12 years, I felt like I was lying next to someone I didn't fully know anymore. That was the moment I realized. The truth wasn't going to come all at once. It was going to come slowly, and it was going to hurt a lot more that way. The moment you can't take back. There's a point in every unraveling where you stop wondering if something is wrong and start bracing yourself for proof. I didn't want proof. That's the truth. No one admits. Because proof doesn't just answer questions, it destroys the version of reality you were still trying to hold on to. For days after that drive home, Lauren and I moved around each other like two people, trying not to set off something fragile. We were polite, careful, normal on the surface. "Did you pay the electricity bill?" "Yeah, Ethan has practice Thursday." "I know. No arguments, no affection, just distance wrapped in routine." But underneath it, everything was louder. I started coming home earlier. Not intentionally at first. Then very intentionally, I wanted to see, to catch something, to prove myself wrong. That Thursday, I told Lauren I'd be working late. She nodded without much reaction. "Okay, too easy. That should have been enough." But it wasn't. At 6:40 p.m., I was parked 2 blocks away from the soccer field, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than I realized. I hated myself for being there, for turning into someone who watched from a distance instead of trusting from within. But I stayed. Practice started like any other. Kids running drills, parents chatting, Jason giving instructions. Lauren stood where she always did, near the sideline, close enough to him to talk without raising her voice. I told myself I'd leave after a few minutes, that I'd seen enough, that nothing looked wrong. Then practice ended. That's when everything changed. Parents started gathering their kids, cars pulling away, voices fading. I stayed. Ethan ran toward Lauren, talking excitedly. She smiled, crouched slightly, listened. Normal. Everything looked normal. Then something small happened. "Can I go with Ben's dad? They're getting burgers," Ethan asked. Lauren hesitated for a second, then smiled. "Yeah, that's fine." I sat up straighter, because that meant she was going to stay. Ethan ran off, waved, disappeared. The field grew quieter, almost empty now, and Lauren didn't leave, she stayed. Jason walked over. No rush, no hesitation, like it was expected. They stood there, talking. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. Their body language said enough. Comfort, familiarity, something unguarded. Then it happened. He stepped closer, not abruptly, naturally. She didn't step back. His hand moved to her waist, lightly, testing. She didn't stop him, and then she leaned in. I don't remember getting out of the car. I don't remember walking across the field. All I remember is the moment their faces got too close, and I was suddenly there. Lauren. My voice cut through whatever they were about to become. They both froze. She turned first, and I will never forget that look. Not just shock, not just fear. Recognition, like a moment she knew might come someday, but never believed would actually happen. Jason stepped back immediately. His hands raised slightly, like he was trying to de-escalate something that hadn't even started yet. "This isn't," he began. "Don't," I said. My voice was calm. Too calm. That kind of calm only comes when something inside you has already broken. Lauren looked at me, her eyes searching my face for something. Anger, yelling, anything. But I didn't give it to her. "How long?" I asked. The question landed harder than any accusation. She didn't answer. "That's not what it looks like," Jason said. I turned to him slowly. "Then tell me what it looks like." He hesitated, and in that hesitation, everything became clear. "Yeah," I said quietly. "That's what I thought." Lauren stepped forward. "Armin, please." "How long?" I repeated. This time my voice wasn't calm. It was controlled, and that was worse. She swallowed. "A few weeks," she said. The words hit me harder than anything else, because a few weeks meant it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. Repeated. "With him?" I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. I let out a slow breath, nodded once. "Okay?" That was it. No shouting, no scene, just a single word. And somehow, that made it more real. "Our man, I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, her voice breaking. I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman I built a life with, the woman I trusted, and suddenly, she felt like someone else. "It always happens," I said quietly. "No one ever means for it to happen." She flinched. "I was going to tell you," she added quickly. I let out a small, humorless laugh. "When?" She didn't answer. Of course she didn't. Jason shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, I held up a hand. Don't." He stopped, because whatever he was going to say didn't matter. Nothing he said could make this better. Nothing she said could undo it. I looked back at Lauren. "Does Ethan know?" I asked. Her eyes widened. "No, of course not." "Good," I said, because that was the only thing left that still felt untouched. "Our son." I stepped back. "I'm going home," I said. "Armand, wait." I shook my head. "There's nothing to say right now." And that was the truth. Because in that moment, words felt useless. The damage was already done. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back, because I knew if I did, I might break in a way I couldn't come back from. The drive home was a blur. My hands moved. My eyes stayed on the road, but my mind was somewhere else, replaying that moment. Over and over again, her leaning in, his hand on her waist. The life I thought I had, collapsing in a single frame. When I got home, the house felt different, not quiet, not empty, just wrong. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. I don't know. At some point, my phone buzzed. "Lauren?" I didn't answer. It buzzed again, and again. I turned it face down, because I wasn't ready, not to hear her voice, not to hear excuses, not to hear apologies. I wasn't ready to hear anything. All I could hear was that one question echoing in my head: "How long?" And the answer that followed. A few weeks. Weeks of lies. Weeks of moments I wasn't part of. Weeks of her choosing someone else, while still coming home to me. That was the part that hurt the most. Not just that she cheated, but that she both live at the same time, and I had no idea. I leaned back, closing my eyes, and for the first time since all of this started, the truth was undeniable. I hadn't been losing her. I had already lost her. I just didn't know it yet. What remains after everything breaks? The house was silent when she came home. Not the kind of silence that feels peaceful, the kind that feels like something is waiting. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the living room, the dim glow from the street slipping through the curtains, just enough to outline the furniture, the walls, the life we had built together. The front door opened slowly, then closed. Her footsteps were quiet, careful, like she wasn't sure she still belonged there. "Armin?" Her voice was soft, uncertain. "I'm here," I said. She walked into the living room and stopped a few feet away. I could see her face now, tired, tear-streaked, not composed like at the field. "I called you," she said. "I know. Why didn't you answer?" I looked at her, because I didn't know how to explain something so simple. I didn't know what to say. That seemed to land. She nodded slightly. A long silence followed. Then she said it. "I'm sorry." The words hung in the air. Heavy. Familiar. Useless. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. "Do you love him?" She froze. "No," she said quickly. "It's not like that." I let out a slow breath. "Then what is it like?" She struggled for an answer, and that struggle told me more than anything she could have said. "I don't know," she whispered. "It just happened." I shook my head slightly. "No," I said. "It didn't just happen." My voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. "It happened the first time you stayed after practice," I continued. "It happened the first time you started dressing up for it. It happened the first time you didn't tell me something." Each word felt like pulling something sharp out of my chest. "You made 100 small choices before tonight," I said. "Don't call it an accident." She started crying again, not loudly, not dramatically, just breaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. I looked at her, and for a moment, I believed her. "I know," I said quietly. That's what makes it worse, because she hadn't done it out of hate or anger. She had done it while still being the same woman who packed Ethan's lunch, who asked me about my day, who said, "I love you," without hesitation. That kind of betrayal doesn't come from losing love. It comes from losing boundaries. "I felt invisible," she said after a while. I closed my eyes briefly. There it was, not an excuse, but a reason. "I was always a mom, a wife, part of something," she continued. "Jason just saw me." I opened my eyes. "Did you ever think to tell me that?" I asked. She looked down. "No." "Why?" "Because I didn't even understand it myself," she admitted. "And by the time I did, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. It was already too late." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling again. Same position, different night, different reality. "I kept thinking something was off," I said quietly. "I just didn't think it was this." "I never wanted to lose you," she said. I turned my head toward her. "Then why did you risk it so easily?" That question broke something in her. "I don't know," she whispered. And that was the most honest answer she had given all night. We sat there for a long time. No yelling, no chaos. Just two people sitting in the aftermath of something neither of us could undo. Finally, I asked the only question that mattered now. "What do you want?" She looked up, eyes red, voice shaking. "I want us," she said. The answer came quickly, too quickly. I studied her, trying to understand if it came from love or fear, or "Do you want the life we built?" I asked. She hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. "I don't know," she admitted. I nodded slowly, because that answer was honest. But it wasn't enough. "I can't compete with confusion," I said. She flinched. "I can't fight for someone who doesn't know if they want me," I continued. "Armand, please." "No," I said gently, not angrily. "Listen." My voice softened. "I love you," I softened. "And that hasn't changed." Her eyes filled again. "But love doesn't erase what happened," I continued. "And it doesn't fix it overnight." She nodded slowly. "So what are you saying?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "I'm saying we need space," I said. The same word that had once felt like distant, now felt like necessity. Her face fell. "You're asking me to leave?" "I'm asking us to stop pretending we can fix this in one night," I said. Tears slipped down her face again. "I'll go to my sister's," she whispered. I nodded. Neither of us moved for a while. Then she stood up slowly, walked toward the bedroom. I heard drawers opening, closing, the quiet sounds of a life being temporarily packed away. About 20 minutes later, she stood by the door, bag in hand. Just like earlier stories don't always end, some moments repeat in different ways. "I'm sorry," she said again. I stood up, walked closer. "I know," I said. We stood there, a few feet apart. "So, this is it?" she asked. I shook my head. "No," I said. "This is just where we stop pretending everything is okay." She nodded slowly. Then she did something I didn't expect. She stepped forward and hugged me. Tight. Desperate. Real. I didn't pull away. But I didn't hold on either, because I didn't know what we were anymore. I love you, she whispered. I closed my eyes. I know. She pulled back, looked at me one last time, then she left. The door closed, and just like that, the house became something else. Not just empty, honest. The days that followed were hard, not traumatic, not explosive, just heavy. Ethan asked where his mom was. At your aunt's, I said. She needed some time. He nodded. Kids accept things more easily than adults, but I saw it, the confusion, the quiet questions he didn't know how to ask. And that became my anchor, because whatever happened between Lauren and me, I couldn't let it break him too. Weeks passed. Lauren and I talked, carefully, honestly. No more pretending, no more avoiding. We talked about what went wrong, not just the affair, but everything before it. The distance, the routines, the things we stopped saying. And slowly, something shifted, not back to what we were, but forward into something more real. Therapy, hard conversations, boundaries, accountability. She cut off contact with Jason completely. No hesitation, no excuses, and that mattered. Not because it fixed everything, but because it showed she understood the weight of what she had done. Trust didn't come back all at once. It came slowly, painfully, like rebuilding something from broken pieces, without knowing if it will ever look the same again. Months later, we sat together at Ethan's soccer game, same field, same sidelines, different us. We didn't stand too close. But we didn't stand apart either, somewhere in between. Do you think we'll be okay? She asked quietly. I watched Ethan run across the field, free, focused, unaware of how much had changed around him. I don't know, I said honestly. She nodded. Then I added, but we're trying, and this time, that felt real. Because in the end, love isn't what keeps people together, it's the choice to rebuild when everything would be easier to walk away from. And sometimes, even after betrayal, that choice is still possible. Not perfect, not easy, but real. I glanced at Lauren. She caught my eye, gave a small, uncertain smile. And for the first time since everything broke, I didn't see the woman who betrayed me. I saw the woman who stayed to face it. And maybe, just maybe, that was where our story started again.